Hi and welcome to today's chapter reading of Unlikely to Stay by Olivia Sherwood, courtesy of Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. And I told him, Bert, if you want to stay with this timepiece, you gotta get with the times. A bod like this one don't stay in the market long. And after I laid down the law, we went to TJ Maxx and Target in Lakeview that day and got him some new duds and kicks. And let me tell you, Cece, my man is styling. If you squint, he almost resembles George Clooney. Well, if George Clooney was 30 years older and had lots of ear and nose hair. Cece hid back a smile behind the container currently holding shamrock green hair dye. That was the colour Kelda Vandenberg had chosen as this month's colour in honour of St Patrick's Day. She claimed her daddy came to America from Ireland. But since her maiden name was Klein, Cece highly doubted there was validity to that particular statement, especially since Kelda claimed to be Jewish during Hanukkah and Native American on the day Parker Elementary School had its students dress up as homesteaders, staking their parcel of land in celebration of the Oklahoma Land Run. Kelda would stand at the elementary school fence and complain about the white people stealing her homeland. So, what did Susan and Griff think about the colour you chose for your hair this time? Cece asked. Susan was Kelda's daughter, and Griff was her grandson. Susan came to the salon twice a month religiously to have Cece cover her greys with chestnut brown dye. Cece was pretty sure Kelda was the source of Susan's grey hairs. They quit trying to make me stay with my natural colour a year ago when they realised I had to keep my followers happy. I've become a social media presence up to 7,000 followers. They make suggestions on my hair colour each month. It's why I asked for the rainbow glitter in January. I'm sorry I couldn't make that happen, Kelda. I bet Pink's hairstylist could make it happen, Kelda muttered under her breath. Come again? I didn't quite catch that. I said I understand. That would have been a tough one to accomplish, especially without all the modern conveniences of those classy Hollywood salons, Kelda replied, a fake smile plastered on her face. Cece didn't even try to argue with her. Everyone in town knew life was much easier if Kelda was allowed to say whatever she wanted. Cece figured at 91 Kelda had earned that right no matter how ridiculous her comments were. I almost finished and then you'll have to sit for a bit while the colour sets. Then I'll style it up and you can be on your way. I'll have you looking like a shamrock in no time. Kelda gave her a thumbs up and started perusing the US Weekly in her lap. Would you look at that, she muttered. That Adam Levine on The Voice is one hunk of eye candy, let me tell you. I could do some dirty dancing with that one. That Blake Shelton isn't so bad himself. Do you know he's from Oklahoma? Yeah, I did know that. I also know his lake in Oklahoma isn't as nice as ours. You're right about that, Kelda, Cece says absent-mindedly. Cece put the final coating on Kelda's locks and let out a breath. So far, so good. She hoped the green turned out like she wanted. Otherwise, she'd be dealing with Kelda's wrath for quite some time. Cece plopped down on the comfy bright purple velvet couch by the front door of her salon, Cece's Curls and More. Had it been her choice, she would have named the salon she bought from her mum something hip. Rage, Razor, Tussled. But since the majority of her clients were of the elderly variety, she'd only changed the name from Jeanette's, the original owner from the 50s, to Cece's Curls and More. It was all about keeping the clients happy. And when one dealt with finicky people who were born during the Great Depression, there was a lot of keeping happy Cece had to do. Even though Cece kept the name, the 80s decor in the salon had to change. Gone were the lime green linoleum floors and the beige walls. Now her shop walls were painted soft turquoise, the doors, moulding and frames all black. The floor was black and white checkered tiles. She had installed surround sound to play music from her iPad, hung brightly coloured quotes and pictures on the wall, and had even installed a small counter with a Keurig and various K-cups of coffee, tea and cappuccino for customers to drink. Another change had come when she decided to install 2 pedicure chairs, a tanning bed, spray tan booth, and manicurist table. Now all the elderly women in her small town of Parker, Oklahoma, could make their hair green, their skin bronze, and their nails all colour of the rainbow if they so wished. Cece was pooped. All the women in Kelda's age bracket had recently been changing their hair colour as much as the weather in the state changed. Cece wouldn't put money on it, but she had a sneaking suspicion it was because Kelda had snagged herself a man. Madge Perkins had come in a week after Kelda and Bert had announced their relationship status on social media and dyed her hair the exact same colour as Cece's purple couch. Apparently, Mad had her eye on Bert and was not too happy when his status went from single to in a relationship. Cece didn't know what was so enticing about Bert Gallagher. He was old as Methuselah, grouchy as Walter Matthau in Grumpy Old Men, had a mouth that would make a sailor blush, and was the cheapest SOB that ever walked the face of the earth. Maybe it was the fact he could hear better than any other octogenarian Cece had ever met, and if what one of her best friends told her was the truth, Bert was still a go-getter in the sack. At least if he had the Viagra he bought online against doctor's orders at the ready. Cece guessed that made him the Bachelor, octogenarian edition of Parker. Brecken knew all about Bert's Viagra and ability to perform even at the age of 88. She had fallen in love with Kelda's grandson Griffin Stevens a year ago. Shortly after they got together, the duo walked in on Kelda and Bert mid-loving. Kelda wrapped up in a sheet and Bert's male part standing at attention in the middle of Kelda's living room. Griff was none too happy, but finally told his Meemaw what she did behind closed doors was none of his business. He just never wanted to walk in on it again. Brecken told Cece she had an alarm on his phone. He would blare at Kelda's front door before entering her house, where she'd been shacked up with Bert for almost a year. Cece could only imagine the trauma it caused him. She never knew her grandparents, but the thought of seeing any elderly people, much less relatives, going at it sent a shudder through her body. She knew old people needed love too. She just wanted to pretend like it never happened. The bell jingled above the door jingled, signalling someone was entering the building. She groaned and died a little inside when she saw it was Kelda's man. He was wearing a pair of knockoff Air Jordans on his feet, dark wash skinny jeans, a bright purple Macho Man Randy Savage t-shirt, and a turquoise banded fedora with a peacock feather sticking to the right side. "Where's my sex kitten?" he hollered. "She's still getting her damn hair did. It's way past supper time, Kelda. You better get your ass in gear." Cece looked at the large clock on her wall. It was 5:15. "See there, Cece, I told ya he's looking good," Kelda called from her perch in the stylist chair. "I told him he needs to get some of those muscles like Macho Man on his shirt. He's my favourite wrestler. Those muscles. Mmm." "I didn't hear you complaining about my muscles last night, Kelda," he grumbled. That was something Cece could have gone her entire life without ever hearing. She tried not to shudder. "You need to simmer down, lovey," Kelda replied to Bert. "Just sit on Cece's comfy couch and have a cup of coffee. She's got a French vanilla cappuccino that goes great with a shot of the Baileys I have in my purse. I'm pretty sure my Irish daddy brought the first bottle back to America. You know. Then we can go and eat at Sadie's. It's Meatloaf Monday." "They call that coffee," Bert harumphed. "That's not coffee. The coffee I had in the barracks in the Korean War. Now that's coffee. Black stuff that'll coat your insides. None of that frou-frou Starbucks shit. I have a regular coffee pot too, Bert, if you're interested." Bert said something under his breath that sounded suspiciously like an insult, so Cece hopped off the couch and headed over to check Kelda's hair. "Well, Miss Kelda, I think it's about as green as it's going to get. Ready for a wash and style?" "You bet your fanny I am. I want to make my heritage proud. I even found a cat shirt with a cat wearing a green hat, drinking a green beer. It says Happy St. Catrick's Day on it. Ha, get it? Cat instead of Pat. Tricky play on words." "I get it. The question is, did you get a matching one for Bert?" she whispered in Kelda's ear. "I'm not wearing no damn cat shirt," Bert called from his perch on the couch. What smelt suspiciously like French vanilla cappuccino from the cup in his hand, wafting across the room. Shit that coats his insides, indeed. It's enough I have to live with the devil things. Kelda had two cats, Diablo and Harley Quinn. Both beautiful, both evil spawns of Satan. "Let's get this colour washed out, yeah?" Kelda rubbed her hands together in anticipation. "I can't wait to see what it looks like." Cece led Kelda to the sink and washed the colour out. The water coming out of Kelda's hair tinted bright green. She lathered Kelda's head with shampoo and conditioner before towel drying it and leading her back to the stylist chair. Boy, that stuff sure does smell good, Kelda said. Is that fancy salon shampoo? It is, Cece replied, getting her blow dryer and round brush out of a drawer. Do you sell it? Yes, I do. I have some over there on that shelf, in fact. How much? I think a big bottle's $30. The small bottle is 15 or 20. What? Are you kidding me? That's highway robbery. Cece laughed. Well, I'm not forcing you to buy it. Well, that's a good thing because I would refuse. My 99-cent Suave works just fine. I like that coconut smell. Sometimes I'll even splurge for some of that Suave Professionals. It comes in a fancy bottle like yours and compares itself to that big sexy hair brand that comes in the red bottle. Do you think they're lying? I'm sure it works just as well, Cece replied, raising her voice so Kelda could hear her over the blow dryer. Besides, Kelda, your hair is so pretty you could wash it with anything and it would look good. I sure do turn heads when I walk into a room, don't I? That was the understatement of the year. You sure do. Cece turned off the blow dryer and spun Kelda around so she could see herself in the mirror. What do you think? Kelda squinted her eyes. She stared at her image for several seconds. I look just like I've got a freshly mowed summer lawn on top of my head, she finally replied. Cece inwardly cringed. Is that a good thing? Hilda's face split into a wide grin and she gave Cece two thumbs up. I'll say it's a good thing. I can put some sparkly and glittery beads in my hair and look just like an Easter basket for next month. You won't even need to colour it again. Whatever you want, you're the one with all the followers on social media. I might need help with the beads though. These fingers don't work as well as they should anymore, Kelda said, holding up her arthritic hands. That's why we had to buy Burt t-shirts. Easier to shut in times of passion, if you know what I mean. Cece shook her head. That was another image she didn't want floating through her brain. Unfortunately, it was too late. One look at Bert sipping his cappuccino, staring at Kelda like she was the best thing since sliced bread, an image in front of their shucking of his Macho Man t-shirt front and centre. I'm telling you, Sonny, it's the herpes. I got the herpes on my ass. Brant Billings looked at the clock and tried not to sigh in frustration. It was only 2 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 hours to go until the small clinic he currently ran in Parker, Oklahoma was closed for the evening. 3 hours that were going to feel like 30 if the day continued the way it was going. First thing that morning, as soon as Brant opened the clinic doors, June Adams had been waiting for him with her pet donkey, Rambo. June explained Rambo had a cut on his leg from the barbed wire fence surrounding her property. And when Brant explained that he wasn't a vet and that June should take Rambo to Sophie's Haven and see Gretchen, the vet Annie Holloway had hired to care for all the animals in her animal sanctuary, big crocodile tears began running down the woman's cheeks. But Gretchen is on vacation, she had wailed. What if he dies? I don't know what I'd do without my Rambo. Brant tried to assure her Rambo's wound wasn't life-threatening, but June wasn't hearing it. She went on and on about how she raised him in a bottle when his mother died in a freak lightning accident, and how he was like her four-legged son. She also told him how she'd created a special language with him that involved some sort of leg kicks and special braying. She offered to show Brant, but he just shook his head, grabbed a suture kit from inside the clinic, and stitched up the donkey's leg. He was thanked with a huge hug, June successfully shoving his head between her ample breasts before being asked if the visit would be covered by insurance. Brant had told her there would be no charge. Luckily, he successfully jumped out of the way before he got another lung-crushing, boob-suffocating hug. It got even worse as the day had progressed. He'd gotten puked on by 2 kids with the stomach virus, and Madge Perkins had scheduled an appointment for the 4th time in the month for a non-existent illness. When he wouldn't prescribe her an antibiotic, she gave him an earful about how Harry Donovan, the lawyer in town, was her nephew, and she was going to have Harry sue Brant for all he was worth. Currently, Brant was staring at the wrinkly old derriere of 88-year-old Marty Sampson. It wasn't the herpes, as Marty had so eloquently put it, but it was indeed a very large infected abscess. An abscess Brant had to lance, and lancing was one messy business. Mr. Sampson, it's not herpes, he said. but it is a really infected abscess, so I'll have to lance it. Abscess? You mean I get a boil in my ass? Well, an abscess is a little deeper infection than a boil, but I bet it's from that damn cat it killed us. Abscesses aren't contagious, and you definitely can't get one from an ant. Brant started to explain, but was interrupted by the old man whose pants were around his ankles and his ass was shining brightly from the examining table on room 1. I know they aren't contagious. What do you take me for? An idiot? Marty complained, his voice muffled by the examination table that was currently smashing his face. I was visiting Bert with that damn woman he shacked up with, and she has 2 devil cats. I got up to use the John, and one of them jumped on me and dug its claws right in my derriere. Brant tried his best not to smile. The old geezer probably had eyes in the back of his head. Let me get some tools and I can get this taken care of for you. Stepping out into the hallway, Brant grabbed a scalpel, numbing cream, sterile towels, antiseptic, gauze, and tape out of the cabinet. Okay, Mr. Sampson, first I'm going to put some of this numbing cream on around the abscess so you can't feel what I'm doing. Just get on with it, sonny, Marty grumbled. I served in the Korean War. I ain't afraid of no tiny knife. Brant shrugged his shoulders. So be it. He worked in silence, rubbing the area with antiseptic after the numbing cream had taken effect, and then placing sterile towels around it. Grabbing the scalpel, he said, I'm getting ready to make a small incision to release the pus inside the infection. Are you ready? I already told you As soon as Brant made the incision on Marty's skin, the old man about came off the table. Sweet baby Jesus, what the hell did you do? I told you I had to make an incision to drain the pus, Mr. Sampson. You didn't make a small incision, you cut half my ass off. I thought you put some stuff on it so I wouldn't feel anything. I did. Well, it didn't work, or else you just plain suck at your job. Where did you go to medical school?